Sappho 100 Lyrics. By Bliss Carman. 1907. Sappho, who broke off a fragment of her soul for us to guess at. Sappho, with that gloriole of ebon hair on calmed brows, O poet woman! None forgoes the leap, attaining the repose. E.B. Browning. Introduction. The poetry of Sappho. If all the poets and all the lovers of poetry should be asked to name the most precious of the priceless things which time has wrung in tribute from the triumphs of human genius, the answer which would rush to every tongue would be the lost poems of Sappho. These we know to have been jewels of a radiance so imperishable that the broken gleams of them still dazzle men's eyes, whether shining from the too small brilliance and the handful of stardust which alone remain to us, or reflected merely from the adoration of those poets of old time who were so fortunate as to witness their full glory. For about 2,500 years Sappho has held her place as not only the supreme poet of her sex, but the chief lyrist of all lyrists. Every one who reads acknowledges her fame, concedes her supremacy, but to all except poets and Hellenists her name is a vague and uncomprehended splendor, rising secure above a persistent mist of misconception. In spite of all that is in these days being written about Sappho, it is perhaps not out of place now to inquire, in a few words, into the substance of this supremacy which towers so unassailably secure from what appear to be such shadowy foundations. First, we have the witness of her contemporaries. Sappho was at the height of her career about 6 centuries before Christ, at a period when lyric poetry was peculiarly esteemed and cultivated at the centers of Greek life. Among the Molic peoples of the Isles, in particular, it had been carried to a high pitch of perfection, and its forms had become the subject of assiduous study. Its technique was exact, complex, extremely elaborate, minutely regulated, yet the essential fires of sincerity, spontaneity, imagination, and passion were flaming with undiminished heat behind the fixed forms and restricted measures. The very metropolis of this lyric realm was Mytilene of Lesbos, where, amid the myrtle groves and temples, the sunlit silver of the fountains, the hyacinth gardens by a soft blue sea, beauty and love in their young warmth could fuse the most rigid forms to fluency. Here Sappho was the acknowledged queen of song, revered, studied, imitated, served, adored by a little court of attendants and disciples, loved and hymned by Alcaeus, and acclaimed by her fellow craftsmen throughout Greece as the wonder of her age. That all the tributes of her contemporaries show reverence not less for her personality than for her genius is sufficient answer to the calumnies with which the ribald jesters of that later period, the corrupt and shameless writers of Athenian comedy, strove to defile her fame. It is sufficient, also, to warrant our regarding the picturesque but scarcely dignified story of her vain pursuit of Phaon and her frenzied leap from the cliff of Leucas as nothing more than a poetic myth, reminiscent, perhaps, of the myth of Aphrodite and Adonis, who is, indeed, called Phaon in some versions. The story is further discredited by the fact that we find no mention of it in Greek literature, even among those Attic comedians who would have clutched at it so eagerly and given it so gross a turn, till a date more than 200 years after Sappho's death. It is a myth which has begotten some exquisite literature, both in prose and verse, from Ovid's famous epistle to Addison's gracious fantasy and some impassioned and imperishable dithyrambs of Mr. Swinburne, but one need not accept the story as a fact in order to appreciate the beauties which flowered out from its colored unreality. The applause of contemporaries, however, is not always justified by the verdict of aftertimes, and does not always secure an immortality of renown. The fame of Sappho has a more stable basis. Her work was in the world's possession for not far short of 1,000 years, 1,000 years of changing tastes, searching criticism, and familiar use. It had to endure the wear and tear of quotation, the commonizing touch of the school and the marketplace. And under this test its glory grew ever more and more conspicuous. Through those 1,000 years poets and critics vied with one another in proclaiming her verse the one unmatched exemplar of lyric art. Such testimony, even though not a single fragment remained to us from which to judge her poetry for ourselves, might well convince us that the supremacy acknowledged by those who knew all the triumphs of the genius of old Greece was beyond the assault of any modern rival. We might safely accept the sustained judgment of 1,000 years of Greece. Fortunately for us, however, 2 small but incomparable odes and a few scintillating fragments have survived, quoted and handed down in the eulogies of critics and expositors. In these the wisest minds, the greatest poets, and the most inspired teachers of modern days have found justification for the unanimous verdict of antiquity. The tributes of Addison, Tennyson, and others, the throbbing paraphrases and ecstatic interpretations of Swinburne, are too well known to call for special comment in this brief note. But the concise summing up of her genius by Mr. Watts Dunton in his remarkable essay on poetry is so convincing and illuminating that it seems to demand quotation here. Never before these songs were sung, and never since did the human soul, in the grip of a fiery passion, utter a cry like hers, and from the executive point of view, in directness, in lucidity, in that high, imperious verbal economy which only nature can teach the artist, she has no equal, and none worthy to take the place of second. The poems of Sappho so mysteriously lost to us seem to have consisted of at least 9 books of odes, together with epithalamia, epigrams, elegies, and monodies. Of the several theories which have been advanced to account for their disappearance, the most plausible seems to be that which represents them as having been burned at Byzantium in the year 380 Anno Domini, by command of Gregory Nazianzen, in order that his own poems might be studied in their stead and the morals of the people thereby improved. Of the efficacy of this act no means of judging has come down to us. In recent years there has arisen a great body of literature upon the subject of Sappho, most of it the abstruse work of scholars writing for scholars. But the gist of it all, together with the minutest surviving fragment of her verse, has been made available to the general reader in English by Mr. Henry T. Wharton, in whose altogether admirable little volume we find all that is known and the most apposite of all that has been said up to the present day about love's priestess, mad with pain and joy of song, song's priestess, mad with joy and pain of love. Perhaps the most perilous and the most alluring venture in the whole field of poetry is that which Mr. Carman has undertaken in attempting to give us in English verse those lost poems of Sappho of which fragments have survived. The task is obviously not one of translation or of paraphrasing, but of imaginative and, at the same time, interpretive construction. It is as if a sculptor of today were to set himself, with reverence, and trained craftsmanship, and studious familiarity with the spirit, technique, and atmosphere of his subject, to restore some statues of Polyclitus or Praxiteles of which he had but a broken arm, a foot, a knee, a finger upon which to build. Mr. Carman's method, apparently, has been to imagine each lost lyric as discovered, and then to translate it, for the indefinable flavor of the translation is maintained throughout, though accompanied by the fluidity and freedom of purely original work. C.G.D. Roberts. Now, to please my little friend, I must make these notes of spring, with the soft southwest wind in them and the marsh notes of the frogs. I must take a gold-bound pipe, and I'll match the bubbling call from the beechwoods in the sunlight, from the meadows in the rain. Sappho I. Cyprus, Paphos, or Panormus may detain thee with their splendor of oblations on thine altars, O imperial Aphrodite. Yet do thou regard, with pity for a nameless child of passion, this small unfrequented valley by the sea, O sea-born mother. 2. What shall we do, Cytherea? Lovely Adonis is dying. Ah, but we mourn him! Will he return when the autumn purples the earth, and the sunlight sleeps in the vineyard? Will he return when the winter huddles the sheep, and Orion goes to his hunting? Ah, but thy beauty, Adonis, tend with the soft spring and the south wind, love and desire. 3. Power and beauty and knowledge, Pan, Aphrodite, or Hermes, whom shall we life-loving mortals serve and be happy? Lo now your garlanded altars, 5 are they not goodly with flowers? Have ye not honor and pleasure in lovely Lesbos? Will ye not, therefore, a little hearten, impel, and inspire 10 one who adores, with a favor threefold in wonder? 4. O Pan of the evergreen forest, protector of herds in the meadows, helper of men at their toiling, tillage and harvest and herding, how many times to frail mortals 5 hast thou not hearkened? Now even I come before thee with oil and honey and wheat bread, praying for strength and fulfillment of human longing, with purpose 10 ever to keep thy great worship pure and undarkened. O Hermes, master of knowledge, measure and number and rhythm, worker of wonders in metal, 15 Molder of malleable music, so often the giver of secret learning to mortals. Now even I, a fond woman, frail and of small understanding, 20 yet with unslakable yearning greatly desiring wisdom, come to the threshold of reason and the bright portals. And now, sea-born Aphrodite, 25 in whose beneficent keeping earth, with her infinite beauty, color and fashion and fragrance, glows like a flower with fervor where woods are vernal. 30. Touch with thy lips and enkindle this moon-white delicate body, drench with the dew of enchantment this mortal one, that I also grow to the measure of beauty. 35 Fleet yet eternal. Thee, O Aphrodite, God-born and deathless, break not my spirit with bitter anguish, thou wilful empress. 5 I pray thee, hither! As once aforetime while thou didst hearken to my voice far off, listen, and leaving 10 thy father's golden house and yoked chariot. Come, thy fleet sparrows beating the mid-air over the dark earth. 15 Suddenly near me, smiling, immortal, thy bright regard asked what had befallen, why I had called thee. 20 What my mad heart then most was desiring. What fair thing wouldst thou learn now to love thee? Who wrongs thee, Sappho? 25 If now she flies thee, soon shall she follow, scorning thy gifts now, soon be the giver, and a loath loved one. 30 Soon be the lover. So even now, too, come and release me from mordant love pain, and all my hearts will. 35 Help me accomplish. 6 Peer of the gods he seems, who in thy presence sits, and hears close to him thy silver speech tones and lovely laughter. 5 Ah, but the heart flutters under my bosom, when I behold thee even a moment, utterance leaves me. 10 My tongue is useless, a subtle fire runs through my body, my eyes are sightless, and my ears ringing. 15 I flush with fever, and a strong trembling lays hold upon me, paler than grass am I, half dead for madness. 20 Yet must I, greatly daring, adore thee, as the adventurous sailor makes seaward for the lost skyline. 25 And undiscovered fabulous islands, drawn by the lure of beauty and summer, and the sea's secret. 37 The Cyprian came to thy cradle, when thou wast little and small, and said to the nurse who rocked thee, Fear not thou for the child. She shall be kindly favored. 5 And fair and fashioned well, as befits the lesbian maidens and those who are fated to love. Hermes came to thy cradle, resourceful, sagacious, serene. 10 And said, The girl must have knowledge, to lend her freedom and poise. Naught will avail her beauty, if she have not wit beside. She shall be Hermes' daughter. 15 Passing wise in her day. Great Pan came to thy cradle, with calm of the deepest hills, and smiled. They have forgotten the veriest power of life. 20 To kindle her shapely beauty, and illumine her mind withal, I give to the little person the glowing and craving soul. 8 Aphrodite of the foam, who hast given all good gifts, and made Sappho at thy will love so greatly and so much. Ah, how comes it my frail heart 5 is so fond of all things fair, I can never choose between Gorgo and Andromeda. 9 Nay, but always and forever like the bending yellow grain, or quick water in a channel, is the heart of man. Comes the unseen breath and power 5 like a great wind from the sea, and we bow before his coming, though we know not why. X Let there be garlands, Dica, around thy lovely hair, and supple sprays of blossom twined by thy soft hands. Whoso is crowned with flowers 5 has favor with the gods, who have no kindly eyes for the ungarlanded. 11 When the Cretan maidens dancing up the full moon round some fair new altar, trample the soft blossoms of fine grass, there is mirth among them. 5 Aphrodite's children ask her benediction on their bridals in the summer night. 12 In a dream I spoke with the cypress-born, and said to her, Mother of beauty, mother of joy, why hast thou given to men this thing called love, like the ache of a wound 5 in beauty's side, to burn and throb and be quelled for an hour and never wholly depart? And the daughter of Cyprus said to me, Child of the earth, 10 Behold, all things are born and attain, but only as they desire. The sun that is strong, the gods that are wise, the loving heart, deeds and knowledge and beauty and joy. 15 But before all else was desire. 13 Sleep thou in the bosom of the tender comrade, while the living water whispers in the well run, and the oleanders 5 glimmer in the moonlight. Soon, soon the shy birds will be at their fluting, and the morning planet rise above the garden. 10 For there is a measure set to all things mortal. 14. Hesperus, bringing together all that the morning star scattered. Sheep to be folded in twilight, children for mothers to fondle. Me too will bring to the dearest, 5 tenderest breasts in all Lesbos. 15. In the grey olive grove a small brown bird had built her nest, and waited for the spring. But who could tell the happy thought that came to lodge beneath my scarlet tunic's fold? All day long now is the green earth renewed 5 with the bright sea wind and the yellow blossoms. From the cool shade I hear the silver plash of the blown fountain at the garden's end. 16. In the apple boughs the coolness murmurs, and the grey leaves flicker where sleep wanders. In this garden all the hot noon I await thy fluttering footfall 5 through the twilight. 17. Pale rose leaves have fallen in the fountain water, and soft reedy flute notes pierce the sultry quiet. But I wait and listen, 5 till the trodden gravel tells me, all impatience, it is Phaon's footstep. 18. The courtyard of her house is wide and cool and still when day departs. Only the rustle of leaves is there and running water. And then her mouth, more delicate 5 than the frail wood anemone, brushes my cheek, and deeper grow the purple shadows. 19. There is a medlar tree growing in front of my lover's house, and there all day the wind makes a pleasant sound. And when the evening comes, 5 we sit there together in the dusk, and watch the stars appear in the quiet blue. XX. I behold Arcturus going westward down the crowded slope of night dark azure, while the scorpion with red Antares trails along the sea line to the southward. From the ilex grove there comes soft laughter, 5 my companions at their glad love-making, while that curly-headed boy from Naxos with his jade flute marks the purple quiet. 21. Softly the first step of twilight falls on the darkening dial, one by one kindle the lights in Mitylene. Noises are hushed in the courtyard, 5 the busy day is departing, children are called from their games, herds from their grazing. And from the deep-shadowed angles comes the soft murmur of lovers, 10 then through the quiet of dusk bright sudden laughter. From the hushed street, through the portal, where soon my lover will enter, comes the pure strain of a flute 15 tender with passion. 22. Once you lay upon my bosom, while the long blue-silver moonlight walked the plain, with that pure passion all your own. Now the moon is gone, the Pleiads 5 gone, the dead of night is going, slips the hour, and on my bed I lie alone. 23. I loved thee, Athos, in the long ago, when the great oleanders were in flower in the broad-herded meadows full of Sunday, and we would often at the fall of dusk wander together by the silver stream, 5 when the soft grass-heads were all wet with dew, and purple-misted in the fading light. And joy I knew and sorrow at thy voice, and the superb magnificence of love, the loneliness that saddens solitude, 10 and the sweet speech that makes it durable, the bitter longing and the keen desire, the sweet companionship through quiet days and the slow ample beauty of the world, and the unutterable glad release 15 within the temple of the holy night. O Athos, how I loved thee long ago in that fair parish summer by the sea. 24. I shall be ever maiden, if thou be not my lover, and no man shall possess me henceforth and forever. But thou alone shalt gather 5 this fragile flower of beauty, to crush and keep the fragrance like a holy incense. Thou only shalt remember this love of mine, or hallow 10 the coming years with gladness, calm and pride and passion. 25. It was summer when I found you in the meadow long ago, and the golden vetch was growing by the shore. Did we falter when love took us 5 with a gust of great desire? Does the barley bid the wind wait in his course? 26. I recall thy white gown, cinctured with a linen belt, whereon violets were wrought, and scented with strange perfumes out of Egypt. And I know thy foot was covered 5 with fair Lydian broidered straps, and the petals from a rose tree fell within the marble basin. 27. Lover, art thou of a surety not a learner of the wood god? Has the madness of his music never touched thee? Ah, thou dear and godlike mortal, 5 if Pan takes thee for his pupil, make me but another syrinx for that piping. 28. With your head thrown backward in my arms safe hollow, and your face all rosy with the mounting fervor. While the grave eyes great and 5 with the wise new wonder, swimming in a love mist like the haze of autumn. From that throat, the throbbing nightingales for pleading, 10 wayward, soft, and welling inarticulate love notes. Come the words that bubble up through broken laughter, sweeter than spring water, 15. Gods, I am so happy! 29. Ah, what am I but a torrent, headstrong, impetuous, broken, like the spent clamor of waters in the blue canyon? Ah, what art thou but a fern frond, 5 wet with blown spray from the river, diffident, lovely, sequestered, frail on the rock ledge? Yet are we not for one brief day, while the sun sleeps on the mountain, 10 wild-hearted lover and loved one, safe in Pan's keeping? XXX. Love shakes my soul, like a mountain wind falling upon the trees, when they are swayed and whitened and bowed as the great gusts will. I know why Daphne sped through the grove 5 when the bright god came by, and shut herself in the laurel's heart for her silent doom. Love fills my heart, like my lover's breath filling the hollow flute, 10 till the magic wood awakes and cries with remembrance and joy. Ah, timid Syrinx, do I not know thy tremor of sweet fear? For a beautiful and imperious player 15 is the lord of life. 31. Love, let the wind cry on the dark mountain, bending the ash trees and the tall hemlocks, with the great voice of 5 thunderous legions, how I adore thee. Let the hoarse torrent in the blue canyon, murmuring mightily 10 out of the grey mist of primal chaos, cease not proclaiming how I adore thee. Let the long rhythm 15 of crunching rollers, breaking and bellowing on the white seaboard, tighten and tireless, tell, while the world stands, 20 how I adore thee. Love, let the clear call of the tree cricket, friliest of creatures, green as the young grass, 25 mark with his trilling resonant bell note, how I adore thee. Let the glad lark's song over the meadow, 30 that melting lyric of molten silver, be for a signal to listening mortals, how I adore thee. 35. But more than all sounds, surer, serener, fuller with passion and exultation, let the hushed whisper 40 in thine own heart say, how I adore thee. 32. Heart of mine, if all the altars of the ages stood before me, not one pure enough nor sacred could I find to lay this white, white rose of love upon. 5. I who am not great enough to love thee with this mortal body so impassionate with ardor, but oh, not too small to worship while the sun shall shine. 10. I would build a fragrant temple to thee, in the dark green forest, of red cedar and fine sandal, and that love thee with sweet service all my whole life long. 15. I would freshen it with flowers, and the piney hill wind through it should be sweetened with soft fervors of small prayers and gentle language thou wouldst smile to hear. 20. And a tinkling eastern windbell, with its fluttering inscription from the rafters with bronze music should retard the quiet fleeting of uncounted hours. 25. And my hero, while so human, should be even as the gods are, in that shrine of utter gladness, with the tranquil stars above it and the sea below. 30. 33. Never yet, love, in earth's lifetime, hath any cunningest minstrel told the 1/7 of wisdom, ravishment, ecstasy, transport, hid in the hue of the hyacinth's 5 purple in springtime. Not in the lyre of Orpheus, not in the songs of Musaeus, lurked the unfathomed bewitchment wrought by the wind in the grasses, 10 held by the road of the sea surf, in early summer. Only to exquisite lovers, fashioned for beauty's fulfillment, made it as rhythm to read stop 15 whence the wild music is molded, ever appears the full measure of the world's wonder. 34. Who was Athos? Men shall ask, when the world is old, and time has accomplished without haste the strange destiny of men. Haply in that far-off age 5 one shall find these silver songs, with their human freight, and guess what a lover Sappho was. 35. When the great pink mallow blossoms in the marshland, full of lazy summer and soft hours, then I hear the summons 5 not a mortal lover ever yet resisted, strange and far. In the faint blue foothills, making magic music, 10 Pan is at his love work on the reeds. I can guess the heart stop, fall and lull in sequence, full of grief for Syrinx 15 long ago. Then the crowding madness, wild and keen and tender, trembles with the burden of great joy. 20. Nay, but well I follow, all unskilled, that fluting. Never yet was reed nymph like to thee. 36. When I pass thy door at night I a benediction breathe. Ye who have the sleeping world in your care, guard the linen sweet and cool. 5 Where a lovely golden head with its dreams of mortal bliss slumbers now. 37. Well, I found you in the twilit garden, laid a lover's hand upon your shoulder, and we both were made aware of loving past the reach of reason to unravel, or the much desiring heart to follow. 5. There we heard the breath among the grasses and the gurgle of soft running water, well contented with the spacious starlight, the cool wind's touch and the deep blue distance, till the dawn came in with golden sandals. 10. 38. Will not men remember us in the days to come hereafter, thy warm-colored loving beauty and my love for thee? Thou, the hyacinth that grows 5 by a quiet running river, I, the watery reflection and the broken gleam. 39. I grow weary of the foreign cities, the sea travel and the stranger peoples. Even the clear voice of hardy fortune dares me not as once on brave adventure. For the heart of man must seek and wander, 5 Ask and question and discover knowledge, yet above all goodly things is wisdom, and love greater than all understanding. So, a mariner, I long for landfall, when a darker purple on the sea rim, 10 O'er the prow uplifted, shall be Lesbos and the gleaming towers of Mytilene. XL. Ah, what detains thee, Phaon, so long from Mytilene, where now thy restless lover wearies for thy coming? A fever burns me, Phaon, 5 My knees quake on the threshold, and all my strength is loosened, slack with disappointment. But thou wilt come, my Phaon, back from the sea like morning, 10 To quench in golden gladness the ache of parted lovers. Sly. Phaon, O my lover, what should so detain thee? Now the wind comes walking through the leafy twilight? All the plum leaves quiver 5 with the cold and darkness, after their long patience and consuming ardor. And the moving grasses have relief, the dew-drenched 10 comes to quell the parching ache of noon they suffered. I alone of all things fret with unsluiced fire, and there is no quenching 15 in the night for Sappho, since her lover Phaon leaves her unrequited. 42. O heart of insatiable longing, what spell, what enchantment allures thee over the rim of the world with the sails of the sea-going ships? And when the rose petals are scattered 5 at dead of still noon on the grass plot, what means this passionate grief, this infinite ache of regret? 43. Surely somehow, in some measure, there will be joy and fulfillment, cease from this throb of desire, even for Sappho. Surely some fortunate hour 5 Phaon will come, and his beauty be spent like water to plenish meed of that beauty. Where is the breath of Poseidon, cool from the seafloor with evening? 10 Why are Selene's white horses so long arriving? 44. Oh, but my delicate lover, is she not fair as the moonlight? Is she not supple and strong for hurried passion? Has not the god of the green world, 5 In his large tolerant wisdom, filled with the ardors of earth her 20 summers? Well did he make her for loving, well did he mold her for beauty, 10 Gave her the wish that is brave with understanding. O Pan, avert from this maiden sorrow, misfortune, bereavement, harm, and unhappy regret. 15 Praise one fond mortal. XLV. Softer than the hill fog to the forest are the loving hands of my dear lover, when she sleeps beside me in the starlight, and her beauty drenches me with rest. As the quiet mist enfolds the beech trees, 5 Even as she dreams her arms enfold me, half awaking with 100 kisses on the scarlet lily of her mouth. 46. I seek and desire, even as the wind that travels the plain and stirs in the bloom of the apple tree. 5. I wander through life, with the searching mind that is never at rest, till I reach the shade of my lover's door. 10. 47. Like torn sea kelp in the drift of the great tides of the sea, carried past the harbor mouth to the deep beyond return. I am buoyed and borne away 5 on the loveliness of earth, little caring, save for thee, past the portals of the night. 48. Fine woven purple linen I bring thee from Phocea, that, beauty upon beauty, a precious gift may cover the lap where I have lain. 5. And a gold comb, and girdle, and trinkets of white silver, and gems are in my sea chest, lest poor and empty-handed thy lover should return. 10. And I have brought from Tyre a pan-flute stained vermilion, wherein the gods have hidden love and desire and longing, which I shall loose for thee. 15. 49. When I am home from travel, my eager foot will stay not until I reach the threshold where I went forth from thee. And there, as darkness gathers 5 in the rose-scented garden, the God who prospers music shall give me skill to play. And thou shalt hear, all startled, a flute blown in the twilight, 10 with the soft pleading magic the greenwood heard of old. Then, lamp in hand, thy beauty in the rose marble entry. And unreluctant Hermes 15 shall give me words to say. L. When I behold the pharos shine and lay a path along the sea, how gladly I shall feel the spray, standing upon the swinging prow. And question of my pilot old, 5 how many watery leagues to sail ere we shall round the harbor reef and anchor off the wharves of home. Lee. Is the day long, O lesbian maiden, and the night endless in thy lone chamber in Mitylene? 5. All the bright day, until welcome evening when the stars kindle over the harbor, what tasks employ thee? 10. Passing the fountain at golden sundown, one of the homegoing traffickers, hast thou thought of thy lover? 15. Nay, but how far too brief will the night be, when I returning to the dear portal hear my own heart beat. 20. Lee. Lo, on the distance a dark blue ravine, a fold in the mountainous forests of fir, cleft from the skyline sheer down to the shore. Above are the clouds and the white, pealing gulls, at its foot is the rough broken foam of the sea, 5 with ever and on the long deep muffled roar, a sigh from the fitful great heart of the world. Then inland just where the small meadow begins, well bulwarked with boulders that jut in the tide, lies safe beyond storm beat the harbor and Sunday 10. See where the black fishing boats, each at its buoy, ride up on the swell with their dare-danger prows, to sight o'er the Serum what venture may come. And look, where the narrow white streets of the town leap up from the blue water's edge to the wood, 15 scant room for man's range between mountain and sea, and the market where woodsmen from over the hill may traffic, and sailors from far foreign ports with treasure brought in from the ends of the earth. And see the third house on the left, with that gleam 20 of red burnished copper, the hinge of the door whereat I shall enter, expected so oft, let love be your sea star, to voyage no more. 53. Art thou the topmost apple the gatherers could not reach, reddening on the bough? Shall not I take thee? Art thou a hyacinth blossom 5 the shepherds upon the hills have trodden into the ground? Shall not I lift thee? Free is the young god Eros, paying no tribute to power, 10 seeing no evil in beauty, full of compassion. Once having found the beloved, however sorry or woeful, however scornful of loving, 15 little it matters. Live. How soon will all my lovely days be over, and I no more be found beneath the sun, either beside the many murmuring sea, nor where the plain winds whisper to the reeds, nor in the tall beech woods among the hills 5 where roam the bright-lipped oreads, nor along the pasture sides where berry-pickers stray and harmless shepherds pipe their sheep to fold. For I am eager, and the flame of life burns quickly in the fragile lamp of clay. 10 Passion and love and longing and hot tears consume this mortal Sappho, and too soon a great wind from the dark will blow upon me, and I be no more found in the fair world, for all the search of the revolving moon 15 and patient shine of everlasting stars. LV. Soul of sorrow, why this weeping? What immortal grief hath touched thee with the poignancy of sadness, testament of tears? Have the high gods deigned to show thee 5 destiny, and disillusion fills thy heart at all things human, fleeting and desired? Nay, the gods themselves are fettered by one law which links together 10 truth and nobleness and beauty, man and stars and sea. And they only shall find freedom who with courage rise and follow where love leads beyond all peril, 15 wise beyond all words. LVI. It never can be mine to sit in the door in the sun and watch the world go by, a pageant and a dream. For I was born for love, 5 and fashioned for desire, beauty, passion, and joy, and sorrow and unrest. And with all things of earth eternally must go, 10 daring the perilous born of joyance and of death. A strain of song by night, a shadow on the hill, a hint of odorous grass, 15 a murmur of the sea. 57. Others shall behold the sun through the long uncounted years, not a maiden after time wise as thou. For the gods have given thee their best gift, an equal mind 5 that can only love, be glad, and fear not. 58. Let thy strong spirit never fear, nor in thy virgin soul be thou afraid. The gods themselves and the almightier fates cannot avail to harm. With outward and misfortunate chance 5 the radiant unshaken mind of him who at his being's center will abide, secure from doubt and fear. His wise and patient heart shall share the strong sweet loveliness of all things made. 10 And the serenity of inward joy beyond the storm of tears. Licks. Will none say of Sappho, speaking of her lovers, and the love they gave her, joy and days and beauty, flute playing and roses, 5 song and wine and laughter? Will none, musing, murmur, yet, for all the roses, all the flutes and lovers, doubt not she was lonely 10 as the sea, whose cadence haunts the world forever? LX. When I have departed, say but this behind me. Love was all her wisdom, all her care. Well she kept love's secret, 5 dared and never faltered, laughed and never doubted love would win. Let the world's rough triumph trample by above her, 10 she is safe forever from all harm. In a land that knows not bitterness nor sorrow, she has found out all 15 of truth at last. LXI. There is no more to say now thou art still, there is no more to do now thou art dead, there is no more to know now thy clear mind is back returned unto the gods who gave it. Now thou art gone the use of life is past, 5 the meaning and the glory and the pride, there is no joyous friend to share the day, and on the threshold no awaited shadow. 62. Play up thy silver flute, the crickets all are brave, glad is the red autumnal earth and the blue sea. Play up thy flawless silver flute, 5 dead ripe are fruit and grain. When love puts on his scarlet coat, put off thy care. 63. A beautiful child is mine, formed like a golden flower, Clay's the loved one. And above her I value not all the Lydian land, 5 nor lovely Hellas. 64. Ah, but now henceforth only one meaning has life for me. Only one purport, measure and beauty, 5 has the bright world. What mean the woodwinds, color and morning, bird, stream and hill? And the brave city 10 with its enchantment? Thee, only thee. LXV. Softly the wind moves through the radiant morning, and the warm sunlight sinks into the valley, filling the green earth with a quiet joyance, strength, and fulfillment. Even so, gentle, strong and wise and happy, 5 through the soul and substance of my being, comes the breath of thy great love to me, Ward, O thou dear mortal. 66. What the west wind whispers at the end of summer, when the barley harvest ripens to the sickle, who can tell? 5. What means the fine music of the dry cicada, through the long noon hours of the autumn stillness, who can say? 10. How the grape ungathered with its bloom of blueness greatens on the trellis of the brick-walled garden, who can know? 15. Yet I, too, am greatened, keep the note of gladness, travel by the wind's road, through this autumn leisure, by thy love. 20. 67. Indoors the fire is kindled, beechwood is piled on the hearthstone, cold are the chattering oak leaves, and the ponds frostbitten. Softer than rainfall at twilight, 5 bringing the field's benediction and the hill's quiet and grayness, are my long thoughts of thee. How should thy friend fear the seasons? They only perish of winter 10 whom love, audacious and tender, never hath visited. 68. You ask how love can keep the mortal soul strong to the pitch of joy throughout the years. Ask how your brave cicada on the bough keeps the long sweet insistence of his cry. Ask how the Pleiads steer across the night 5 in their serene unswerving mighty course. Ask how the wood flowers waken to the sun, unsummoned save by some mysterious word. Ask how the wandering swallows find your eaves upon the rain wind with returning spring. 10. Ask who commands the ever-punctual tide to keep the pendulous rhythm of the sea. And you shall know what leads the heart of man to the far haven of his hopes and fears. 69. Like a tall forest were their spears, their banners like a silken sea, when the great host in splendor passed across the crimson sinking sun. And then the bray of brazen horns 5 arose above their clanking march, as the long waving column filed into the odorous purple dusk. O lover, in this radiant world whence is the race of mortal men, 10 so frail, so mighty, and so fond, that fleets into the vast unknown? 70. My lover smiled. O friend, ask not the journey's end, nor whence we are. That whistling boy who minds his goats so idly in the grey ravine. The brown-backed rower drenched with spray. 5. The lemon seller in the street, and the young girl who keeps her first wild love tryst at the rising moon. Lo, these are wiser than the wise. And not for all our questioning 10 shall we discover more than joy, nor find a better thing than love. Let pass the banners and the spears, the hate, the battle, and the greed, for greater than all gifts is peace. 15. And strength is in the tranquil mind. 71. Ye who have the stable world in the keeping of your hands, flocks and men, the lasting hills, and the ever-wheeling stars. Ye who freight with wondrous things 5. The wide wandering heart of man and the galleon of the moon, on those silent seas of foam. Oh, if ever ye shall grant time and place and room enough 10 to this fond and fragile heart stifled with the throb of love. On that day one grave-eyed fate, pausing in her toil, shall say, Lo, one mortal has achieved 15 immortality of love. 72. I heard the gods reply, Trust not the future with its perilous chance. The fortunate hour is on the dial now. Today be wise and great, and put off hesitation and go forth 5 with cheerful courage for the diurnal need. Stout be the heart, nor slow the foot to follow the impetuous will, nor the hand slack upon the loom of deeds. Then may the fates look up 10 and smile a little in their tolerant way, being full of infinite regard for men. 73. The sun on the tide, the peach on the bough, the blue smoke over the hill, and the shadows trailing the valley side, make up the autumn day. Ah, no, not half. Thou art not here 5 under the bronze beech leaves, and thy lover's soul like a lonely child roams through an empty room. 74. If death be good, why do the gods not die? If life be ill, why do the gods still live? If love be naught, 5. Why do the gods still love? If love be all, what should men do but love? 75. Tell me what this life means, O my prince and lover, with the autumn sunlight on thy bronze gold head? With thy clear voice sounding 5 through the silver twilight, what is the lost secret of the tacit earth? 76. Ye have heard how Marsyas, in the folly of his pride, boasted of a matchless skill, when the great god's back was turned. How his fond imagining 5 fell to ashes cold and grey, when the flawless player came in serenity and light. So it was with those I loved in the years ere I loved thee. 10. Many a saying sounds like truth, until truth itself is heard. Many a beauty only lives until beauty passes by, and the mortal is forgot. 15. In the shadow of the god. 77. Hour by hour I sit, watching the silent door. Shadows go by on the wall, and steps in the street. Expectation and doubt 5 flutter my timorous heart. So many hurrying home, and thou still away. 78. Once in the shining street, in the heart of a seaboard town, as I waited, behold, there came the woman I loved. As when, in the early spring, 5 a daffodil blooms in the grass, golden and gracious and glad, the solitude smiled. 79. How strange is love, O my lover! With what enchantment and power does it not come upon mortals, learned or heedless! How far away and unreal, 5 faint as blue isles in a sunset haze golden, all else of life seems, since I have known thee. 80. How to say I love you, what, if I but live it, were the use in that, love? Small indeed. Only, every moment 5 of this waking lifetime let me be your lover and your friend. Ah, but then, as sure as blossom breaks from bud sheath, 10 when along the hillside spring returns. Golden speech should flower from the soul so cherished, and the mouth your kisses 15 filled with fire. 81. Hark, love, to the tambourines of the minstrels in the street, and one voice that throbs and soars clear above the clashing time. Some Egyptian royal love lilt, 5 some Sidonian refrain, vows of Paphos or of Tyre, mount against the silver sun. Pleading, piercing, yet serene, vagrant in a foreign town, 10 from what passion was it born, in what lost land over sea? 82. Over the roofs the honey-colored moon, with purple shadows on the silver grass, and the warm south wind on the curving sea, while we two, lovers past all turmoil now, watch from the window the white sails come in, 5 bearing what unknown ventures safe to port. So falls the hour of twilight and of love with wizardry to loose the hearts of men. And there is nothing more in this great world than thou and I, and the blue dome of dusk. 1083. In the quiet garden world, gold sunlight and shadow leaves flicker on the wall. And the wind, a moment since, with rose petals strewed the path 5 and the open door. Now the moon-white butterflies float across the liquid air, glad as in a dream. And across thy lover's heart, 10 visions of one scarlet mouth with its maddening smile. 84. Soft was the wind in the beech trees, low was the surf on the shore. In the blue dusk one planet like a great seafarer shone. But nothing to me were the sea sounds, 5 the wind and the yellow star, when over my breast the banner of your golden hair was spread. 85. Have you heard the news of Sappho's garden, and the golden rose of Mytilene, which the bending brown-armed rowers lately brought from oversea, from lonely Pontus? In a meadow by the river Halys, 5 where some wood god hath the world in keeping, on a burning summer noon they found her, lovely as a dryad, and more tender. Her these eyes have seen, and not another shall behold, till time takes all things goodly, 10 so surpassing fair and fond and wondrous, such a slave as, worth a great king's ransom. No man yet of all the sons of mortals but would lose his soul for and regret not, so hath beauty compassed all her children 15 with the cords of longing and desire. Only Hermes, master of word music, ever yet in glory of gold language could ensfer the magical remembrance of her melting, half sad, wayward beauty, 20. Or devise the silver phrase to frame her, the inevitable name to call her, half a sigh and half a kiss when whispered, like pure air that feeds a forge's hunger. Not a painter in the Isles of Hellas 25 could portray her, mix the golden tawny with bright stain of poppies, or ensanguine like the life her darling mouth's vermilion. So that, in the ages long hereafter, when we shall be dust of perished summers, 30 any man could say who found that likeness, smiling gently on it. This was Gorgo. 86. Love is so strong a thing, the very gods must yield, when it is welded fast with the unflinching truth. Love is so frail a thing, 5 a word, a look will kill. O lovers, have a care how ye do deal with love. 87. Hadst thou, with all thy loveliness, been true, had I, with all my tenderness, been strong, we had not made this ruin out of life, this desolation in a world of joy, my poor Gorgo. 5. Yet even the high gods at times do err. Be therefore thou not overcome with woe, but dedicate anew to greater love an equal heart, and be thy radiant self once more, Gorgo. 1088. As, on a morn, a traveler might emerge from the deep green seclusion of the hills, by a cool road through forest and through fern, little frequented, winding, followed long with joyous expectation and daydreams, 5 and on a sudden, turning a great rock covered with frondage, dark with dripping water, behold the seaboard full of surf and sound, with all the space and glory of the world above the burnished silver of the sea. 10. Even so it was upon that first spring day when time, that is a devious path for men, led me all lonely to thy door at last, and all thy splendid beauty, gracious and glad, glad as bright color, free as wind or air, 15 and lovelier than racing seas of foam, bore sense and soul and mind at once away to a pure region where the gods might dwell, making of me, a vagrant child before, a servant of joy at Aphrodite's will. 2089. Where shall I look for thee, where find thee now, O my lost Athos? Storm bars the harbor, and snow keeps the pass 5 in the blue mountains. Bitter the wind whistles, pale is the sun, and the days shorten. Close to the hearthstone, 10 with long thoughts of thee, thy lonely lover sits now, remembering all the spent hours and thy fair beauty. 15. Ah, when the hyacinth wakens with spring, and buds the laurel. Doubt not, some morning when all earth revives, 20 hearing Pan's flute call. Over the riverbeds, over the hills, sounding the summons. I shall look up and behold 25 in the door, smiling, expectant. Loving as ever and glad as of old, my own lost Athos. 30. Ecstasy. A sad, sad face, and saddest eyes that ever beheld the sun. Whence came the grief that makes of all thy beauty one sad sweet smile? In this bright portrait, where the painter fixed them, 5 I still behold the eyes that gladdened, and the lips that loved me, and gold on rose. The cloud of hair that settles on one shoulder slipped from its vest. 10 I almost hear thy Mytilenean love song in the spring night, when the still air was odorous with blossoms, and in the hour thy first wild girl's love trembled into being. 15 Glad, glad and fond. Ah, where is all that wonder? What God's malice undid that joy and set the seal of patient woe upon thee, O my lost love? 20. Sigh. Why have the gods in derision severed us, heart of my being? Where have they lured thee to wander, O my lost lover? While now I sojourn with sorrow, 5 Having remorse for my comrade, what town is blessed with thy beauty, gladdened and prospered? Nay, who could love as I love thee, with whom thy beauty was mingled? 10 In those spring days when the swallows came with the south wind, then I became as that shepherd loved by Selene on Latmus, once when her own summer magic 15 took hold upon her with a sweet madness, and thenceforth her mortal lover must wander over the wide world forever, like one enchanted. 20. 92. Like a red lily in the meadow grasses, swayed by the wind and burning in the sunlight, I saw you, where the city chokes with traffic, bearing among the passers-by your beauty, unsullied, wild, and delicate as a flower. 5 And then I knew, passed out or peradventure, our loved and mighty Eleusinian mother had taken thought of me for her pure worship, and of her favor had assigned my comrade for the great mysteries. Knew I should find you 10 when the dusk murmured with its new-made lovers, and we be no more foolish but wise children, and well content partake of joy together, as she ordains and human hearts desire. 93. When in the spring the swallows all return, and the bleak bitter sea grows mild once more, with all its thunders softened to a sigh. When to the meadows the young green comes back, and swelling buds put forth on every bough, 5 With wildwood odors on the delicate air. Ah, then, in that so lovely earth wilt thou with all thy beauty love me all one way, and make me all thy lover as before? Lo, where the white-maned horses of the surge, 10 Plunging in thunderous onset to the shore, trample and break and charge along the sand. 94. Cold is the wind where Daphne sleeps, that was so tender, and so warm with loving, with a loveliness than her own laurel lovelier. Now pipes the bitter wind for her, 5 And the snow sifts about her door, while far below her frosty hill the racing billows plunge and boom. 95. Hark, where Poseidon's white racing horses trample with tumult the shelving seaboard. Older than Saturn, 5 Older than Rhea, that mournful music, falling and surging, with the vast rhythm ceaseless, eternal, 10 Keeps the long tally of all things mortal. How many lovers hath not its lulling cradle to slumber with the ripe flowers? 15. Ere for our pleasure this golden summer walked through the cornlands in gracious splendor. 20. How many loved ones will it not croon to, in the long spring days through coming ages, when all our daydreams 25 have been forgotten, and none remembers even thy beauty? They too shall slumber in quiet places, 30 And mighty sea sounds call them unheeded. 96. Hark, my lover, it is spring. On the wind a faint far call wakes a pang within my heart, unmistakable and keen. At the harbor mouth a sail 5 glimmers in the morning sun, and the ripples at her prow whiten into crumbling foam, as she forges outward bound for the teeming foreign ports. 10 Through the open window now, hear the sailors lift a song. In the meadow ground the frogs with their deafening flutes begin, the old madness of the world 15 in their golden throats again. Little fifers of live bronze, who hath taught you with wise lore to unloose the strains of joy, when Orion seeks the west? 20. And you feathered flute players, who instructed you to fill all the blossomy orchards now with melodious desire? I doubt not our Father Pan 25 hath a care of all these things. In some valley of the hills far away and misty blue, by quick water he hath cut a new pipe, and set the wood 30 to his smiling lips, and blown, that earth's rapture be restored. And those wild Pandine stops mark the cadence life must keep. O my lover, be thou glad. 35 It is spring in Hellas now. 97. When the early soft spring wind comes blowing over Rhodes and Samos and Miletus, from the 7 mouths of Nile to Lesbos, freighted with sea odors and gold sunshine, what news spreads among the island people 5 In the marketplace of Mytilene, lending that unwonted stir of gladness to the busy streets and thronging doorways. Is it word from Ninus or Arbela, Babylon the Great, or northern Imbris? 10 Have the laden galleons been sighted stoutly laboring up the sea from Tyre? Nay, 'tis older news that foreign sailor with the cheek of sea-tan stops to prattle to the young fig-seller with her basket 15 and the breasts that bud beneath her tunic. And I hear it in the rustling tree-tops. All this passionate bright tender body quivers like a leaf the wind has shaken, now love wanders through the aisles of springtime. 98. I am more tremulous than shaken reeds, and love has made me like the river water. Thy voice is as the hill wind over me, and all my changing heart gives heed, my lover. Before thy least lost murmur I must sigh, 5 Or gladden with thee as the sun-path glitters. 99. Over the wheat field, over the hill crest swoops and is gone the beat of a wild wing, brushing the pine tops, 5 Bending the poppies, hurrying northward with golden summer. What premonition, O purple swallow, 10 Told thee the happy hour of migration? Hark! On the threshold, hush, flurried heart in me, was there a footfall? 15 Did no one enter? Soon will a shepherd in rugged Dacia, folding his gentle ewes in the twilight, 20 Lifting a level gaze from the sheepfold, say to his fellows, Lo, it is springtime! This very hour 25 In Mitylene, will not a young girl say to her lover, lifting her moon-white arms to enlace him, 30 Ere the glad sigh comes, Lo, it is love-time! See! Once more the rain on the mountain, once more the wind in the valley, with the soft odors of springtime and the long breath of remembrance, O Lydiarces! 5. Warm is the sun in the city. On the street corners with laughter traffic the flower girls. Beauty blossoms once more for thy pleasure in many places. 10. Gently and now falls the twilight, with the slim moon in the pear trees, and the green frogs in the meadows blow on shrill pipes to awaken thee, Lydiarces. 15. Gladly and now crimson morning flushes fair-built Mitylene, portico, temple, and column, where the young garlanded women praise thee with singing. 20. Ah, but what burden of sorrow tinges their slow stately chorus, though spring revisits the glad earth? Wilt thou not wake to their summons, O Lydiarces? 25. Shall they then never behold thee, never more see thee returning down the blue cleft of the mountains, nor in the purple of evening welcome thy coming? 30. Never more answer thy glowing youth with their ardor, nor cherish with lovely longing thy spirit, nor with soft laughter beguile thee, O Lydiarces? 35. Heedless, assuaged, art thou sleeping where the spring sun cannot find thee, nor the wind waken, nor woodlands bloom for thy innocent rapture through golden hours? 40. Hast thou no passion nor pity for thy deserted companions? Never again will thy beauty quell their desire nor rekindle, O Lydiarces? 45. Nay, but in vain their clear voices call thee. Thy sensitive beauty is become part of the fleeting loveliness, merged in the pathos of all things mortal. 50. In the faint fragrance of flowers, on the sweet draught of the sea wind, linger strange hints now that loosen tears for thy gay gentle spirit, O Lydiarces. 55. Epilogue. Now the 100 songs are made, and the pause comes. Loving heart, there must be an end to summer, and the flute be laid aside. On a day the frost will come, 5 Walking through the autumn world, hushing all the brave endeavor of the crickets in the grass. On a day, oh, far from now, earth will hear this voice no more, 10 For it shall be with thy lover as with Linus long ago. All the happy songs he wrought from remembrance soon must fade, as the wash of silver moonlight 15 From a purple dark ravine. Frail as dew upon the grass or the spindrift of the sea, out of nothing they were fashioned and to nothing must return. 20. Nay, but something of thy love, passion, tenderness, and joy, some strange magic of thy beauty, some sweet pathos of thy tears, must imperishably cling 25 to the cadence of the words, like a spell of lost enchantments laid upon the hearts of men. Wild and fleeting as the notes blown upon a woodland pipe, 30 They must haunt the earth with gladness and a tinge of old regret. For the transport in their rhythm was the throb of thy desire, and thy lyric mood shall quicken 35 souls of lovers yet unborn. When the golden days arrive, with the swallow at the eaves, and the first sob of the south wind sighing at the latch with spring. 40. Long hereafter shall thy name be recalled through foreign lands, and thou be a part of sorrow when the Linus songs are sung. Printed at the De la Moore Press, 32, George Street, Hanover Square, London, W. Illustration: The King's Classics. Chatto and Windus. 111 St. Martin's Lane, London. A concise list of the King's Classics. General Editor. Professor I. Gollancz, lit.d. Although the King's Classics are to be purchased for 1/6 net per volume, the series is unique in that 1. The letterpress, paper, and binding are unapproached by any similar series. 2. Competent scholars in every case have supervised this series, which can therefore be received with confidence. Athenaeum. 3. With few exceptions, the volumes in this series are included in no similar series, while several are copyright. The King's Classics under the general editorship of Professor I. Gollancz, lit.d. Right Royal Series. Literary World. We note with pleasure that competent scholars in every case have supervised this series, which can therefore be received with confidence. Athenaeum. The series of King's Classics, issued under the general editorship of Professor I. Gollancz, aims at introducing to the larger reading public many noteworthy works of literature not readily accessible in cheap form, or not hitherto rendered into English. Each volume is edited by some expert scholar, and has a summary introduction dealing with the main and essential facts of the literary history of the book. At the end there are the necessary notes, for a right understanding of references and textual difficulties. Where necessary, there is also a carefully compiled index. As will be at once seen from the accompanying list, much original and new work has been secured for the series, and it will be recognized that the King's Classics differentiate themselves in a very marked way from the many reprints of popular books. It should be noted, however, that while primarily rare masterpieces are included in the King's Classics, modern popular classics, more especially such as have not yet been adequately or at all annotated, are not excluded from the series. Note: at the date of this list, May 1, 1907, numbers 1 to 35 were published. Numbers subsequent to 35 are at press or about to go to press. The King's Classics are printed on antique laid paper, 16mo, 6x 4.5 inches, gilt tops, and are issued in the following styles and prices. Each volume has a frontispiece, usually in photogravure. Quarter bound, antique grade boards, 1/6 net. Red cloth, 1/6 net. Quarter vellum, gray cloth sides, 2/6 net. Special 3/4 vellum, Oxford side papers, gilt tops, silk marker, 5/net. Numbers 2, 20 and 24 are double volumes. Price: boards or cloth, 3/net. Quarter vellum, 5/net. Special 3/4 vellum, 7/6 net. 1. The Love of Books, being the Philobiblon of Richard de Barry. Translated by E. C. Thomas. Frontispiece: seal of Richard de Barry, as Bishop of Durham. 3. The Chronicle of Jocelyn of Brakeland, monk of St. Edmundsbury, a picture of monastic and social life in the 9th century. Newly translated, from the original Latin, with notes, table of dates relating to the Abbey of St. Edmundsbury, and index, by Elsie Jane, M.A., sometime exhibitioner in modern history at University College, Oxon, and with an introduction by the Right Rev. Abbot Gasquet. Frontispiece: seal of Abbot Sampson, A.D. 1200. 20. The Nun's Rule, or Ancren Rule, in modern English. Being the injunctions of Bishop Poore intended for the guidance of nuns or anchoresses, as set forth in the famous 13th century MS, referred to above. Editor: the Right Rev. Abbot Gasquet. Frontispiece: seal of Bishop Poore. Double volume. 17. Medieval Lore. From Bartholomeus Anglicus. Edited with notes, index and glossary by Robert Steele. Preface by the late William Morris. Frontispiece: an old illumination, representing astrologers using astrolabes. The book is drawn from one of the most widely read works of medieval times. Its popularity is explained by its scope, which comprises explanations of allusions to natural objects met with in Scripture and elsewhere. It was, in fact, An account of the properties of things in general. 11. The Romance of Fulk Fitzwarine. Newly translated from the Anglo-French by Alice Kemp Welch, with an introduction by Professor Brandon. Frontispiece: Whittington Castle in Shropshire, the seat of the Fitzwarines. 45. The Song of Roland. Newly translated from the Old French by Mrs. Crossland. Introduction by Professor Brandon, University of London. Frontispiece: 22. Early Lives of Charlemagne. Translated and edited by A.J. Grant. With frontispiece representing an early bronze figure of Charlemagne from the Musée Carnavalet, Paris. We have here given us two lives of Charlemagne by contemporary authorities, one by Eginhard and the other by the monk of St. Gall. Very different in style, when brought together in one volume each supplies the deficiencies of the other. 35. Wine, Women, and Song. Medieval Students' Songs, translated from the Latin, with an essay, by John Addington Symonds. Frontispiece after a 15th century woodcut. 18. The Vision of Piers the Plowman. By William Langland, in modern English by Professor Skeat, Doctor of Literature. Frontispiece: God Speed the Plough. From an old MS. 8. Chaucer's Knight's Tale, or Palamon and Arcite. In modern English by Professor Skeat, Doctor of Literature. Frontispiece: The Canterbury Pilgrims. From an illuminated MS. 9. Chaucer's Man of Law's Tale, Squire's Tale, and Nun's Priest's Tale. In modern English by Professor Skeat, Doctor of Literature. Frontispiece from an illuminated MS. 10. Chaucer's Prioress's Tale, Pardoner's Tale, Clerk's Tale, and Canon's Yeoman's Tale. In modern English by Professor Skeat, Doctor of Literature. Frontispiece: The Patient Griselda. From the well-known 15th century picture of the Umbrian School in the National Gallery. 41. Chaucer's Legend of Good Women. In modern English, with notes and introduction, by Professor W. W. Skeat, Doctor of Literature. Frontispiece: Ariadne Deserted. After the painting by Angelica Kauffman. 36-37. George Petty's Petit Palace of Petty His Pleasure. The popular Elizabethan book containing 12 classical love stories. Sinorax and Cama, Tyrus and Progny, etc., in style the precursor of Euphues, now first reprinted under the editorship of Professor I. Gollancz. Frontispices: A reproduction of the original title, and of an original page. In 2 volumes. 21. The Memoirs of Robert Carey, Earl of Monmouth. Being a contemporary record of the life of that nobleman as Warden of the Marches and at the court of Elizabeth. Editor, G. H. Powell. With frontispiece from the original edition, representing Queen Elizabeth in a state procession, with the Earl of Monmouth and others in attendance. 19. The Gull's Hornbook. By Thomas Dekker. Editor, R. B. McCarrow. Frontispiece: The Nave of St. Paul's Cathedral at the time of Elizabeth. 29. Shakespeare's Sonnets. Editor, C. C. Stopes. Frontispiece: Portrait of the Earl of Southampton. 4. The Life of Sir Thomas More, Knight. By his son-in-law, William Roper. With letters to and from his famous daughter, Margaret Roper. Frontispiece: Portrait of Sir Thomas More, after Holbein. 33. The Household of Sir Thomas More. By Anne Manning. Preface by Richard Garnett. Frontispiece: The Family of Sir Thomas More. 40. Sir Thomas More's Utopia. Now for the first time edited from the first edition by Robert Steele. Frontispiece: Portrait of Sir Thomas More, after an early engraving. 44. The Four Lastings, together with the Life of Pico della Mirandola and the English Poems. By Sir Thomas More. Edited by Daniel O'Connor. Frontispiece after 2 designs from the Daunts of Death. 43. Sir William Temple's Essay on Gardens, together with other Caroline essays on gardens. Edited, and with notes and introduction by A. Forbes Sieveking, FSA. Frontispiece: Portrait of Sir William Temple, and 5 reproductions of early garden engravings. 5. Icon Basilique, or The King's Book. Edited by Edward Almack, FSA. Frontispiece: Portrait of King Charles I. This edition, which has been printed from an advance copy of the King's Book seized by Cromwell's soldiers, is the first inexpensive one for 100 years in which the original spelling of the first edition has been preserved. 6-7. King's Letters. Part 1. Letters of the Kings of England, from Alfred to the Coming of the Tudors, newly edited from the originals by Robert Steele, FSA Frontispiece, Portrait of Henry V. Part 2. From the Early Tudors, with the Love Letters of Henry VIII. Anne Boleyn, and with Frontispiece, Portrait of Anne Boleyn. Parts 3 and 4, bringing the series up to modern times, will shortly be announced under the same editorship. 39. The Royal Poets of England and Scotland. Being original poems by English kings and other royal and noble persons, now first collected and edited by W. Bailey Kempling. Frontispiece, Portrait of King James I, of Scotland, after an early engraving. 13. The Life of Margaret Godolphin. By John Evelyn, the famous diarist. Re-edit from the edition of Samuel Wilberforce, Bishop of Oxford. Frontispiece, Portrait of Margaret Godolphin engraved on copper. 15. The Falstaff Letters. Editor, James White, possibly with the assistance of Charles Lamb, cf. the introduction. Frontispiece, Sir John Falstaff dancing to Master Brooks' fiddle, from the original edition. 14. Early Lives of Dante. Comprising Boccaccio's Life of Dante, Leonardo Bruni's Life of Dante, and other important contemporary records. Translated and edited by the Rev. Philip H. Wicksteed. Frontispiece, The Death Mask of Dante. 46. Dante's Vita Nuova. The Italian text with D.G. Rossetti's translation on the opposite page. Introduction and notes by Professor H. Olsner, Ph.D., lecturer in Romance Literature, Oxford University. Frontispiece after the original watercolor sketch for Dante's Dream by D.G. Rossetti. 12. The Story of Cupid and Psyche. From The Golden Ass of Apuleius, translated by W. Adlington, 1566, edited by W. H. D. Rouse, Doctor of Literature, with frontispiece representing the Marriage of Cupid and Psyche, after a gem now in the British Museum. 23. Cicero's Friendship, Old Age, and Scipio's Dream. From early translations. Editor, W. H. D. Rouse, Doctor of Literature. Frontispiece. Scipio, Laelius, and Cato conversing. From a 14th century MS. 2. 6 Dramas of Calderon. Translated by Edward Fitzgerald. Editor, H. Olsner, M.A., Ph.D. Frontispiece, Portrait of Calderon, from an etching by M. Igusquiza. Double volume. 42. Swift's Battle of the Books. Edited, and with notes and introduction. Frontispiece. 38. Walpole's Castle of Otranto. The introduction of Sir Walter Scott. Preface by Miss C. Spurgeon. Frontispiece, Portrait of Walpole, after a contemporary engraving. 30. George Eliot's Silas Marner. Frontispiece, Portrait of George Eliot, from a watercolor drawing by Mrs. Charles Bray. Introduction by Richard Garnett. 31. Goldsmith's Vicar of Wakefield. Introduction by Richard Garnett. Frontispiece, Portrait of Oliver Goldsmith. 32. Peg Woffington. By Charles Reade. Frontispiece, Portrait of Peg Woffington. Introduction by Richard Garnett. 16. Polonius, a collection of wise saws and modern instances. By Edward Fitzgerald. With portrait of Edward Fitzgerald from the miniature by Mrs. E.M.B. Rivet-Carnac as frontispiece. Notes and index. Contains a preface by Edward Fitzgerald, on aphorisms generally. 24. Wordsworth's Prelude. The introduction and notes have been written by W. Basil Worsfold, M.A., and the frontispiece is taken from the Portrait of Wordsworth by H. W. Pickerskill, R.A., in the National Gallery. A map of the Lake District is added. Double volume. 25. The Defense of Guinevere and Other Poems by William Morris. Editor, Robert Steele. With reproduction of Dante Gabriel Rossetti's picture of Lancelot and Guinevere at King Arthur's tomb, as frontispiece. 26, 27. Browning's Men and Women. Edited with introduction and notes by W. Basil Worsfold, M.A. 2 volumes, each with portrait of Browning as frontispiece. In 2 volumes. 28. Poe's Poems. Editor, Edward Hutton. Frontispiece, Poe's Cottage. 34. Sappho, 100 Lyrics by Bliss Carman, with frontispiece after a Greek gem. To be continued. Note. At the date of this list, May 1, 1907, numbers 1 to 35 were published. Numbers subsequent to 35 are at press or about to go to press _. Chatto and Windus, 111 St. Martin's Lane, London, W.C. The Shakespeare Classics. A series of volumes of reprints, under the general editorship of Professor I. Gallants, embodying the romances, novels, and plays used by Shakespeare as the direct sources and originals of his plays. 6.5 x 5.25 inches, gilt tops, in the following styles. Each volume will contain a photogravure frontispiece reproduction of the original title. Publication of numbers 1 and 2 in June, number 3 in September, and thereafter at short intervals. Quarter-bound antique gray boards, 2/6 net. Whole gold brown velvet Persian, /net. 3/4 vellum, Oxford side papers, gilt tops, silk marker, 6/net. Postage, _D_. First volumes. 1. Lodge's, Rosalind, the original of Shakespeare's As You Like It. Edited by W. W. Gregg, M.A. 2. Green's, Derastus and Faunia, the original of Shakespeare's Winter's Tale. Edited by P. G. Thomas, Professor of English Literature, Bedford College, University of London. 3. Brooke's poem of Romeo and Juliet, the original of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, as edited by P. A. Daniel, modernized and reedited by J. J. Monroe. 4. The Troublesome Reign of King John, the play rewritten by Shakespeare as King John, edited by F. J. Furnivall D. Lit. 5. 6. The History of Hamlet, together with other documents illustrative of the source of Shakespeare's play, and an introductory study of the legend of Hamlet by Professor I. Gallants, Doctor of Literature, who also edits the work. Note. Number 6 will fill 2 volumes. 7. The Play of King Lear and His 3 Daughters, the old play on the subject of King Lear, edited by Sidney Lee D. Lit. Also 520 special sets, 500 for sale, on larger paper, about 7.5 x 5.75 inches, half-bound parchment, boards, gilt tops, as a library edition. Sold in sets only. Per volume, 5/net, postage for D. Among other items, the Shakespeare Library, of which the above series forms the first section, will contain a complete Old Spelling Shakespeare, edited by Dr. Furnivall. A full prospectus of the Shakespeare Library is in preparation, and will be sent post-free on application. R. Clay & Sons, Limited, London and Bungay.